And we're back. The Marchand and Ourand Sports Media Podcast, post-Super Bowl edition. I'm Andrew Marchand, sports media columnist for the New York Post. He's John Ourand, the media reporter for the Sports Business Journal. A lot to get to today, John. Great seeing you out in LA. We both were out there for the full week leading up to the Super Bowl. I really enjoyed, got to see a lot of people, a lot of executives, broadcasters, agents, and I got to see you for about 2 seconds.
Marchand and I, we're staying in the same hotel. We overlap by 4 days. And I saw you twice. One, when you were coming out of a breakfast meeting with an executive, and it was like a rotating tray. I was going in to see that same executive.
It was like a check-in, check-out. It was like a hockey line going in and out. I told him, I will say, we're not going to say who it was, but I did say, yeah, don't tell him, don't give him any of the good stuff.
Oh, you know, it's funny. I was like, what did you tell Marchand? They were like, oh, we told him nothing.
All right, the topics, we're going to hit the offseason NFL news. A lot could be happening. Broadcasting, Al Michaels, Sean McVay, Troy Aikman, a lot of names in the news. We'll review the Super Bowl, of course, look at the ratings, say what we liked and didn't like about the broadcast, and they'll go into other topics as well. Amazon made some moves, John, that you had this week in terms of how their hierarchy works. Big Ten and ESPN, the negotiating window you reported is going to expire, even though ESPN still could get back in there. TNT and TBS have some special all-star game coverage. And then we'll have our call of the week, which is Super Bowl related. So, John, a lot to pack in.
And, you know, Andrew, this is our 20th episode. We should have a party after the show or something. But let's get right to it. Who's up? Who's down? Who do you got?
Who's up? Who's down?
All right, on the way up, Sean McVay. Now, look, we're going to get into this a little bit deeper. I'm not saying Sean McVay is going to go to ESPN Monday Night Football or some other broadcast booth. But if he wants to, it's out there. And I think he probably can get $10+ million if he wants to walk away from coaching. If you read the tea leaves of what he said, I think it's very possible. I'm not saying he's definitely going to do it. He still has a very good team, but they have mortgaged their future in terms of the trades they've made. So I think this story could happen this offseason, but if it doesn't, it's not going anywhere. It's going to be a story for the next 3 years. Okay, John, who do you have on the way up?
On the way up, I have who's up. It's Kevin Warren, the Big Ten commissioner. The Big Ten has already started negotiating its next media rights deal, and the market couldn't be better for the Big Ten. ESPN wants it. Fox wants it. NBC wants it. CBS wants it. Turner, at least they wanted it when Jeff Zucker was there. And Amazon just named a new head of sports who, get this, did his undergrad at Michigan and his grad school at Northwestern. Deep Big Ten roots. I always compare this process to selling a house. If you get more bidders, you get a bigger price. Well, the Big Ten is overrun with bidders right now, and I'm looking for that conference to break the bank.
All right, now let's do on the way down. John, why don't you go first? Who you got?
I have Phil Mickelson. Back around Thanksgiving, I gave Mickelson an on the way up because I thought he was so good on the match. His on-air performance with Turner was, I just thought he was a natural on TV. But Andrew, he's killing any postseason media career right now. He ripped the PGA Tour in an interview with John Huggan of Golf Digest when he went on record, say that the tour was operating with what he called obnoxious greed. And he was complained that he and the other golfers weren't being paid enough. So let's forget the fact that somebody whose net worth is about the same as some small countries is complaining about not being paid enough. Surely Mickelson has to know that bashing the PGA Tour so publicly, especially when the PGA Tour is competing with this new Saudi-backed golf league, isn't going to sit well with the networks that cover the PGA Tour. I mean, do you think CBS and NBC are going to hire Mickelson to do golf for them on the PGA Tour? I don't. ESPN, Discovery, Amazon, all of them have deep relationships with the tour. And I can tell you, a lot of those executives took notice of those comments.
Yeah, I don't know if Mickelson was going to do it in the first place, though. He has made so much money. I think he wanted to, and I think he wanted, from what I've heard, he kind of sees that Tony Romo salary and says, well, I want to get paid similar to that. So Mickelson is used to getting paid. He's not used to being on the way down. From John Ourand goes with Phil Mickelson. All right, my on the way down. Let's go Super Bowl. Terry McAulay, the expert on officiating for NBC. Where was he? Is he over here? Is he over there? Where did he go? He was nowhere to be found. Look, we'll get into it. Overall, very good broadcast for NBC. I did think late, I would have liked to have heard McAulay, especially on the defensive pass interference. It was such a crucial call. I mean, Collinsworth did talk about it, but I'd love to hear McAulay say that is pass interference because of this. It's not because of that. You had him there. You know, the other call, the other big one was that face mask on the long touchdown, 75-yarder that they didn't call on Jalen Ramsey, which seemed blatant. You didn't really need it. I thought Collinsworth could have hit that a little bit harder, actually. But we'll get to that when we go full into the breakdown of the Super Bowl and the ratings and their coverage. But Terry McAulay was on the way down because you just didn't see him. And the NBC, I thought, could have used them. That's a one slight criticism I had for their overall broadcast.
Yeah, that's why you have an official in the booth. But let's get right to it. Let's get to the topics. Topic one, Andrew, the offseason, the hot stove league for sports media. I mean, I could sense the excitement coming out of your booth right there.
Yeah, I mean, look, this one could be fun. It might be a dud. You never know with these things, but a lot going on. Number one, Al Michaels. We've said it before, 1 yard line with Amazon. As of this taping, I still think ESPN is a possibility. Not totally closing the door there. More likely he goes to Amazon. Fred Gaudelli, his producer, is going to be at Amazon. But I do think that when you look at it, ESPN, you can't fully count them out as of yet.
All right, let me ask you a quick question because you were the first one to report this about Al Michaels, and now it's sort of the best known secret in the business. Thanks to your original reporting on this. The question that I heard most frequently in Los Angeles last week was why Al Michaels, if he's not at the top of his game, he's pretty close to the top of his game. We all know that there's a succession plan with Mike Tirico. Why does NBC feel the need to make this move?
Well, Tirico's been in the on-deck circle since he came over. Now, remember, when Tirico left ESPN, he was the voice of Monday Night Football. So he had one of those top NFL jobs. When he came over, the original idea was NBC had Thursday Night Football. Tirico could do Thursday night. Al does Sunday night. Then they lost Thursday Night Football. First, they wouldn't let Tirico do it, the NFL. They had to have Michaels do it because that was the agreement that they had to have the number one team. Then they let Tirico do it. But then they lost it. So Tirico has not been able to do the NFL. He came over from ESPN. He is the face of that network. Michaels is 77. As he said to us last week, he's kind of outkicked the coverage. He's still going strong. He 92 on that fastball, still is very good. And so I think they just feel like this is the right time. I can understand it, because Tirico is their guy, even if Al's the best of all time. You can kind of see NBC's thinking, but Michaels did not do anything to hurt his cause of saying, well, maybe I should keep this job, with the way he performed in the Super Bowl. Now, the question is, who's going to be his partner? That's what he's kind of waiting for. I do think Troy Aikman and Amazon are having talks. I think ESPN has a little interest in Troy Aikman as well. Fox, of course, wants to keep him. Most likely scenario is probably Aikman does some Amazon, some Fox, and does the big games. But that's not a definite, but that's probably the most likely scenario, I would say. And then Al has his partner, maybe doesn't do all the Amazon games, and it leaves some out there. But again, ESPN is still a wild card in this. I would not fully rule them out as of yet.
Let's talk Romo money. Romo makes what is it? 18 a year, 18 million
with everything. If you count his, personal assistant and the, stat person and the travel.
Every single media executive that you talked to afterwards said that was a unique circumstance. It was sort of the perfect storm where Tony Romo signed that. And that nobody else was going to even get close to that. In fact, they saw a scenario where salaries for on-air talent were going to come back. We have Troy Aikman looking at Amazon and potentially ESPN now. In terms of money, it looks like we're seeing a raise coming up here. What are we going to see in terms of salaries for these higher end talents?
Yeah, well, I think Aikman has that Romo number in mind. I'm not sure he gets all the way there. Like you said, that was a unique circumstance, but it raised the bar. I mean, Chris Collinsworth just got $12.5 million, which is a great salary to work 5 months a year and call games. It's crazy. That's why Aikman might do this. And, to get to the number closer, or maybe even get to Romo's numbers. That's why he might do both. I mean, it would be easy just to do Fox, take $13 million or so, call the games with Joe Buck. Life would seem easy and very good, but it's not as much as Romo. So it's only gonna be that's where the Sean McVay thing is interesting to me. McVay could keep coaching and probably has a chance to win again next year. But you look what the Rams have done. They've mortgaged the future. I just don't see him sticking around to start losing. He's already talked publicly about how he wants to start a family and have a work-life balance. He did a podcast with Peter Schrager of NFL Network. You could tell he's into the media and has major interest in this. But the thing about these numbers is it's only going to the top person. They're not, you go down the analyst ranks, it's not like the salaries are still, you're not building a basketball team or a football team where, the top guy makes 18 or 15 or 12 and the next person makes 10. No, the next person that comes way down, still set number 2 teams, you're still in 7 figures, but then after that, you're probably not even in the 7s if you're analyst for 5 months of the year. They care about the number 1. So if you're Sean McVay, iron's hot, you might want to make sure that if it's ESPN or one of these others, you fill that void before they find somebody else, because those $10 million contracts are not just going to be there if they become satisfied with who they have in that top slot. So that's why again, I'm not saying McVay's definitely going, but that is a story that has legs. And even if he ends up using those legs and returning to the Rams, it's not going away, that story, unless ESPN and others are fully satisfied with who they have in that top spot.
See, and that you just made the point that I wanted to make, which is it's like a game of musical chairs. And, one of the things that helped Collinsworth is that Drew Brees had such an awful performance in the playoff. NBC decided they really needed to re-up Collinsworth. One of the problems with Troy Aikman right now is that Fox, I think, can let him move on. They have a number 2 and Greg Olson, podcast guest, that can step right in and become a number 1. So if he can get ESPN and Amazon to negotiate for him and battle each other, maybe he can get up there. That kind of money is really only reserved for people in Tony Romo's situation, where he was going to bolt to ESPN, or Collinsworth, where it's like, boy, Drew Brees isn't ready. We really need to keep this guy in our booth.
Yeah, but there's a difference. $12.5 million for Collinsworth, 17.5. You want to say salary, 18 total for Romo. So it's it will be interesting. All right. Let's go to topic 2 and the Super Bowl.
Pass. Pop! Got it. Touchdown.
All right, that was Al Michaels on NBC.
On top of his game, Andrew. That was classic Al Michaels.
Yeah, a good call on that Cooper Kupp touchdown. Overall, I thought Michaels was excellent, especially early on. I thought late lacked a little bit of energy in terms of some of these big calls. Did not have that final definitive, really memorable. The Rams are Super Bowl champs, especially on that Donald play at the end on the 4th down play when Joey Burrow almost made an amazing throw on that 4th down play. But still, Michaels, excellent overall. And this is the call for me, John, that I thought just epitomized how good Al was the other day. Second half, we had the long touchdown and then this interception.
Jefferson in motion, off play action, fired over the middle, picked off at the 31-yard line. Awuzie, Skoranek couldn't handle it. And the Cincinnati Bengals in 22 seconds have a touchdown and a takeaway.
Okay, when you listen to that call, John, it can't be better in terms of the words, the 22 seconds at the end that he mentions, that you had the turnover and the touchdown, 22 seconds. That's perfect. And to do it, look, it's always the elephant in the room with older broadcasters. You don't want to be offensive talking about age and all those things, but it is a factor. The man is 77, and it's really impressive. And I wrote about this the other day. If you're going to talk about the greatest of all time, obviously in broadcasting so subjective, but he kind of Tom Brady'd everybody when you talk about that discussion. Now he's tied Pat Summerall for the most Super Bowls ever called at 11, and he's at the top of his game doing it. And that to me kind of separates him. It's kind of a little bit of nonsense talk, like who's the greatest of anything when they're not, especially this is not even players, but I think Al did put an exclamation point on it. And when you talk about ESPN, I wrote this into my column, he'll only be a mere 81 when they have the Super Bowl in 2027. So, if you would say, well, why would ESPN get him? He's not going to do the Super Bowl. All right, maybe not. I mean, the guy doesn't eat vegetables, and seems like he's in amazing shape. So who knows?
This is why NBC's decision to move on from Al Michaels is such a big story to me. He's been the play-by-play voice for primetime football in the U.S. since the 80s. We're going on 30 years right now. I mean, it's an incredible legacy. And if he's dropped off, he hasn't dropped off a lot. I mean, there are plenty of others that you have seen the drop off as they get older become much more pronounced. I don't really see it with Michaels at all.
No, you don't. So overall, for me, a very good broadcast. Let's start with the pregame, John.
Wait, hang on. I got some questions, Andrew. The pregame. How much of the pregame did you watch?
I watched the whole thing. I did.
You could live to talk about it.
Yeah, you could. Oh, okay, yeah.
How did you watch? Did you switch from NFL Network to ESPN, or did you just stick on NBC?
I started with. I have the 3 screens in my office going, and I started with Countdown at 10 o'clock, and then I would go in and watch Game Day, but Countdown was on the main screen. And then when NBC started at 1 o'clock, I was there. I mean, look, did I miss like a minute or two? Like, here and there, you go get a snack, you get up, you talk to somebody in the house. Yes, but
All right, so let me ask some questions then. I just want to pepper you with questions here. What was the most memorable moment from the hours of pregame coverage that you saw? And by the way, I just want to say that we talk about what we talk about beforehand. You don't know any of the questions.
Exactly. I was just going to say, I did not do any prep here for this except for watching. I'd say the most poignant thing was the Tom Coughlin feature. I got the sense, I don't know this, Coughlin probably was very, I only want to do it this way. His wife has dementia. He wrote a op-ed in the New York Times a little while ago about being a caregiver. It's very touching. I mean, especially around here, Coughlin won a couple of championships with the Giants, known as a tough guy, and to see him, kind of vulnerable. The other thing I really liked was what I really, really liked, very Inside TV, but they did a thing where the producer, Fred Godelli, he gets high school players from the area, and they went through some of the plays that the Rams and Bengals had, and to make sure they can get every shot, which I thought was excellent. Would you say, oh, that's too Inside TV? But actually the way they did it with the studio people from Drew Brees to Rodney Harrison, Chris Sims, and Tony Dungy, they went over some things, and it was good. I thought that was a real good segment as well.
I was in LA all week. I was in LA on Sunday, so I didn't get to see any of the pregame shows. But if you watch Roger Goodell's press conference, if you talk to anybody for any length of time, they brought up a lot of the problems with the NFL. Allegations of racism in hiring, allegations of sexism in the Washington franchise, allegations of potentially throwing games in Miami or Cleveland. How did NBC cover that?
Yeah, I mean, they hit on those topics. I mean, you have to if you start.
Well, of course they hit on them, but
how'd they do a good job? I mean, look, this is all. What I don't like is when networks just do these things. So people like you and I and the internet just says, well, they covered it, but I thought they did. They had Michael Smith and Michael Holley on, who have a show on Peacock to talk about the coaching situation. And that was pretty hard hitting. Michael Smith had some comments about how the white owners have to care as much as they do as African-Americans who are talking about this, which was a very strong statement to have. They had Mike Florio with some news on Brian Flores' suit against the NFL, mentioning that they could add the Texans to it because they didn't hire Flores and there was retaliation from the suit. So I thought they covered the stuff. I mean, look, all these pregame shows aren't earth-shattering, but I guess I think they did engage you with those things, and I found them. They didn't overdo it, but I thought it was good. So I think a strong job on the pregame.
All right. Overall pregame, give it a grade.
Give it an A-. A minus, I think, is a good grade for the pregame. Not perfect, but very good.
I would like to have you as a professor, Andrew.
I don't know if I'm an easy grader. Huh? There's a couple points before we move on to the next topic I want to get into. Chris Collinsworth, I did not think had a great game. I thought he was okay. I will say overall, this is why I think the broadcast did well, is that you don't want to be the story, kind of like an umpire in a baseball game. You don't really want to be talked about too much if you're doing the broadcast. If people aren't talking about you too much, that's probably a win. Last time out, Philadelphia, New England, Collinsworth, they were riding the streets over, not literally, but almost in Philadelphia, because Collinsworth went. They had petitions against him and everything. So I thought he might have been a little gun shy. I thought he wasn't strong enough on the face mask, on the long touchdown, the 75-yarder. It was obvious. And he's like, oh, he grabbed his face mask. Yeah, that's a 75-yard touchdown. That shouldn't have been. It's an obvious call that they totally missed. And I thought he was a little over the top with how great a drive it was at the end. He said it was like the greatest drive ever or something like that. Or I don't know. It seemed a little much. It didn't feel like it was it's a Super Bowl winning touchdown drive. That's obviously very important. But I thought Collinsworth was only okay. I do think it's a little bit difficult with all the commercials for the analysts to get in there because you're just going to break so often. And so it's hard to really make your big points. But he didn't really I didn't feel that much extra. It wasn't bad, just wasn't great.
All right, I'm going to ask you for a grade on Collinsworth.
Collinsworth, I'll give now I got to be tough on the grade. All right. So
we start easy.
C+, I'll give him.
C+. I did see the questionable pass interference call at the end on that play. I would have just liked him to be more forceful. He just kind of it was obvious that he didn't agree with the call, but he didn't quite want to say that he didn't agree with the call. And that, as you said at the opening, is when you got to bring in the rules analyst.
I agree. Yeah, exactly. I think you could have McAulay. All right. Last thing, Michelle Tafoya's governor, Michelle Tafoya.
Not yet.
Running? Is she running? We might know a governor if she runs. She said she's not running. She did a bunch of interviews, one with The Athletic, where she said that her husband doesn't want to run. She wants to run. We reported way back that this was her last year. It was obvious she was going to go into politics, which we wrote about, and now she is for sure. She had a very fine sportscasting career. Now she goes into that next phase.
Overall grade for the game.
I want to ask you, what kind of politician will Michelle Tafoya be? No, I'm just kidding.
Overall game broadcast grade.
A minus. Probably gets an A if they bring McAulay in. I thought it was excellent, though. They're good. I mean, they always have a plan, too. They come out of breaks with a plan. NBC does a tremendous job. Cadelli, he's going to go work at Amazon as well. Add that. But they do a very good job.
Yeah, if we had a sports media Hall of Fame, Cadelli is right in there, isn't he?
Oh, you're starting to do a Hall of Fame. All right, we have to do that. Oh, gosh.
I did a couple of episodes ago, I did Mount Rushmore, and people were like, that's too cliche. So now I got to go to the Hall of Fame. Exactly.
I know, but we don't need people petition. Guys, this is not important with John, I think. All right. I mean, listen every week. Don't get me wrong, but who cares?
Yeah, it's critically important. What are you talking about?
No, it's the most important thing in the world. If you get in the Marchand Ourand Sports Media Hall of Fame, tell all your friends. Yeah, whatever. You know what I was mentioning? Barrett Media gave me an honor the other day, and I'm sending it all over the place to my, family and friends. So, and again, so you get honored. So whatever, it'd be the most important thing in the history of anything. All right, let's do the ratings before we finish up on the Super Bowl. 112.3 million people watched over all the platforms of NBC, etc. for the NFL. What did you think of that number?
It's a little less than I thought, to be honest. Across NBC and Telemundo, it just got a little bit over 100 million, 101 million viewers were watching that. But the thing about ratings, Andrew, is if they got 75 million, it would still be a big number, and they would still command the same kind of ad prices that they would. Everybody's going to lead with the rating story, and it's going to get headlined for the next couple of days. But all it is like an ego play for the NFL and for the networks to say, and they're trying to get it as high as they can. They want to beat last year, but really nothing on television gets anywhere close to this. I mean, they could get 60 million viewers, and it would be the most watched show of the year on television. I just, I always hate Super Bowl rating stories because everybody cares about it, and it's just an ego play to me.
I hear you. No doubt about it. I mean, the biggest thing is it will be the most watched show of the year by far. And you're right. If it's 100, 112, 105, whatever it is, if you're in that range, it's an amazing number and it's not going anywhere. And the Super Bowl is the strongest programming there is.
It was cold on the East Coast. You had the second largest TV market in the country involved in the game and hosting the game. You had a close competitive game. So these are all reasons why it got up there. But if you could have had all that and it could have been 90 million, and they would have been killed for that, but it still would have been a success.
100%. So success. All right. Before we get to our last couple of topics and the call of the week, let's take a quick break. Okay, let's go on to our next topic. Topic 3. John, you had the news in your newsletter for the Sports Business Journal on Monday. Amazon with a big move. What do you got?
Well, Amazon brought in Jay Marine to run its sports division. Who's Jay Marine? Nobody knows. He doesn't have a big sports background, but this is what we know about him. He's close to Jeff Bezos, and he's a longtime Amazon executive. And so he's coming in. He doesn't have a lot of relationships yet. He was in Los Angeles making the rounds, meeting with various NFL executives. And one of the reasons that Amazon says that he is that they put him in that position is because they've grown so big that they need somebody to bring somebody new in to watch him. The former head of sports, Marie Donahue, the former ESPN executive, they assure me her role hasn't changed, but she now has a new boss who now reports into her old boss.
So maybe Amazon tries to make a play in the Big Ten, which is one of those things when you look again what they've done. We've talked about this before. NFL, around the world, soccer, cricket, relationship with the Yankees here in the United States, the big Thursday night exclusive package that I know you're fond of coming up. And so Big Ten kind of in the college ranks, with SEC, that's the biggest in football that you could get.
You know what? One of the biggest surprises that I've seen in just reporting this over the years is how these big executives do let their personal biases come in. I mean, I just think back of John Skipper at ESPN, and all of a sudden they're big into soccer and they're ODing on the NBA, and the NFL they don't care as much about, which funnily enough completely tracks with what his interests were.
Yeah, that is good. Soccer, he was good. He actually, John Skipper, I get on him sometimes, but he is one of the more important people in the history of U.S. soccer. When you see what he did with the changing of the rights, and he did grow the game. I mean, others have done it as well. NBC, Fox to a degree, but Skipper, very important with soccer. Big Ten, we hit on a little bit. Next topic. What else do you want to add in terms of where those rights are and what we're going to see happen here?
We're just going to see a really big bidding war. Right now, they are in an exclusive negotiating window with ESPN. Everybody that I talk to suggests that it's going to go out of that without a deal. And the reason for that is all of the interest from all of the other networks that are there. And ESPN still wants it and is still going to be going after it hard. Fox wants a bigger piece of it, of course. CBS wants something to replace the SEC, which is going to be leaving that Saturday afternoon window. And NBC is salivating over it. Could you imagine a Saturday night of a Notre Dame game leading into a Big Ten game or vice versa? So all of these networks are just looking at the Big Ten as something that could really anchor their weekend programming. I mean, I'll be covering it, but you want a prediction? I think it's going to go to Fox and CBS. But I don't count out ESPN, which when they really want something, they find the money to pay for it, or NBC, which does. I mean, they're going to be putting in really aggressive bids.
And what's the official Ourand projection in terms of the money? With SEC got 300 million plus, right? What was it, 325, I think, per year?
Yeah, we're going to see SEC type money. I think that's another thing about these deals is the Big Ten. Kevin Warren, he wants to at least match the SEC, if not get more. There's a big competition there in terms of what conference gets the most. And the advantage for the Big Ten is all off the field. They have big markets. They have, the Ohio market. They have Chicago. Of course, here in DC, we have the Terps. Can we say Rutgers has New York?
No, it doesn't.
The New York market they have, but they have
they care
big
about New
markets.
Jersey. I'm not saying they're not a big program, but I don't know. That doesn't really seem to. If they won the national championship, it would change, but nobody cares. I mean, they no disrespect to Rutgers, but they.
Oh, no disrespect to Rutgers. You just disrespected them,
Well,
Andrew.
it's not a New York team. It's not like the Jets and Giants playing in New Jersey and they're called the New York Jets or Giants. It's Rutgers. You know, they've never really been great at football. The Big Ten obviously wanted the New York market involved, but again, it's a big deal in Jersey around Rutgers. But until they're really good, I don't know. It's not. I lived in Miami when the University of Miami became a big deal. That was felt like a whole, the whole community. Even if you didn't go to Miami, you liked U of M. But I don't know. I don't get that sense.
If Rutgers gets competitive, it's going to become a hot ticket. You watch. They just need to start winning on the field, just like my alma mater down here at Maryland.
All right. Well, wait, are they good? Do people care about them besides you and Scott Van Pelt and Frank Isola, all these Maryland grads? Taylor,
you know what we care about Maryland basketball, and the Maryland basketball being so bad this year is infuriating. But Maryland football, if it's good, it's good. Great. I don't care. But basketball is all we care about.
Does the Big Ten get the $400 million per year?
Oh, that's a lot. I'm going to say yes. I think that there is so much interest, and they're great brands in big markets. I think that by the end of this, the Big Ten is going to make them more revenue than any other college conference from their media rights deal. That's a bold prediction, Andrew.
That is a bold prediction. Well, I said it too, so it's not so bold. I made it less bold.
Wait, you said it first? You had to claim credit?
Well, I didn't know. No, I wasn't claiming credit. I just said it.
I know.
If I didn't say it too, I mean, bold would imply that you're the only one who said it. That would be bold. It's like you can't be bold if the other person's saying it too. Then I guess we both could be. We're both. This is the boldest sports media podcast out there.
This is like the anti-first take. We're just agreeing with each other. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I had to grade the whole world. You're like, I'm just grading everybody. I'm like a teacher today. I'm just giving out A's, except for Collins, where they gave a C+2. All right. We go to the All-Star game, TNT and TBS. TBS is going to have an alternative broadcast. Don't call it a Manningcast. Everyone in TV, John, here's a little inside TV thing for you. They get so mad if you call anything a Manningcast, except for the Manningcast, because I wrote it in my story that, yes, ESPN and Turner, they basically pioneered the concept of these alternative broadcasts. So the Manningcast is not new. The Manningcast just happens to be the most successful, it's an easy way for people to reference us. So it's not a Manningcast.
You know what's so funny about that, Andrew, is in my story on that, I reference it as sort of like a Manningcast. Of course, that's how people understand it.
I mentioned a Manningcast too. Yeah, of course. TNT and TBS, though, I do like it. Alternative broadcast. Draymond Green will also be involved. It's a good idea. You do need it as a separate broadcast. Originally, I'd reported, and this is what they originally were going to have Barkley with Kevin Harlan and Reggie Miller. Instead, it's going to be Dwayne Wade with Reggie Miller and Harlan. But I think this works better when you have an alternative broadcast, because if you have it just as your main broadcast, you're going to kind of upset people who just want to see the game and don't want to hear Barkley the whole time. Make it the Charles Barkley show. Inside the NBA, I think we'll get rave reviews because they always do. And I think the alternative broadcast as a secondary broadcast work. If it's just your main broadcast, I think that's when you're going to annoy people.
That's what I think is going to be so interesting here, because you want another bold prediction.
Here we go. Is this one bold? Let's see if this is actually bold.
Ready? Do we have like sound effects for this?
I'll do. The bold prediction. Okay.
Turner's alternative broadcast is going to get more viewers than its main broadcast.
I'm
you don't think so?
No. All right, that's your bold prediction. Another dinner. Right now, you owe me about.
Oh God! I'm already backtracking.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
I just think like Charles Barkley is an otherworldly TV talent. Him and Shaq calling the game. It's not like they're calling a real game. They're calling a farce game. I mean, they almost scored 200 points a couple of years ago. It's all supposed to be fun. And if I want to have fun watching a fun telecast, I'm going straight to TBS. That's certainly going to be how I'm watching the All-Star game this year.
All right, Kevin Harlan, Reggie Miller, Dwayne Wade. You guys, John Orange challenge. You guys have to have fun.
They got to step it up. They can't have too much fun.
Here's the interesting TV thing is that when you compare like ESPN to ESPN2 with the Manningcast, people go to ESPN for Monday Night Football. I think you do go to TNT for the All-Star game. That is the main broadcast, but I don't think the separation between TBS and TNT, this is helping your cause, is as great. And people do flip around, but I do think TNT is the main broadcast. The other thing is the numbers aren't going to be nearly as high for an NBA All-Star game as compared to Monday Night Football. And so, these alternative broadcasts, do they add people to watch, watching that's a question that some of these networks who don't do it are like, I'm not really sure about that. Obviously it's good publicity when you're brought, I do think it will be social media will probably like it, especially with Draymond in there, freshening it up. And I think Barkley's just great. So, and that brings us to this. Okay. And I just need to give the props. Did you see, John, the All-Star game selection when they had LeBron James and Kevin Durant on?
Let's play it right now.
He hasn't played. Is he healthy?
Who's that?
James, he hasn't played.
He's
what
missed.
happens if he doesn't?
Oh, he got traded. He's healthy now. He's missed the last 3 with a hammy. See, and now we know why LeBron carries a clipboard with him to the draft.
Hey, LeBron,
Oh my
test
God,
me right now.
man.
He's rubbing some ice hot on that thing. He's playing the next game.
No questions. I can't with y'all.
KD, just next year bring a clipboard. It comes in very handy.
Yeah, you can hide your face like LeBron's been doing.
Andrew, I watch a lot of TV. I rarely belly laugh. I belly laughed when I saw that. That was great.
Well, they got LeBron laughing. They got Durant to crack a smile. And Barkley is just so good. Inside the NBA, they deserve credit all the time. But like Barkley, I don't know what he gets paid. Whatever he gets paid, it's not. He is by far the best studio analyst ever. I mean, he is he's top 50 NBA players of all time, but he's just so good. He's hilarious. He says things. He busts on these guys. It's tremendous, and that was good. So, that's why it's considered the best ever. So A+ for that. There's another grade for you. Let's move to our call of the week.
Call of the week.
Mine comes from NFL Films. They got Sean McVay at the end of the game before the final drive and final play that really sealed the Super Bowl. And this is McVay.
Less than a yard to gain on 4th down with 43 seconds remaining.
Hey, what else could you want? What else could you want? Right now, let's go. Let's go. Hey, Aaron, this is the moment. Right now. For the world championship right here. Aaron Donald's gonna make a play.
Burrow to throw for it. He's hit. He flings it away on 4th down. Aaron Donald got there.
Yeah! Yeah! I knew it!
The greatest of all time does it in the biggest moment of Super Bowl 56.
Aaron! Hey, come here! Hey, I knew. World champs. Great job. We're world champs. Yes, sir. We're world champs. I knew you would make that play. We're world champs. I knew you would make that play.
We got another Tony Romo here, John. He predicted Aaron Donald was going to make a play there, and then he does. McVay auditioning for Monday night. I mean, look, predicting Aaron Donald's going to make a play is not, going out. I'd say that's not a bold prediction, but it was really good. NFL Films, they bring you inside the game. Is it sanitized a little bit, but it's just NFL was so smart all these years ago to get the NFL Films involved, and I thought that was really excellent.
Your buy, sell, or hold on McVay is so obviously a buy. You can't get enough of him.
I don't know. No, hold on a second. That's not. I don't know how good he'll be on the air, but he is a tremendous story. I mean, he's the youngest coach ever. He's only 36, and there's a chance he could walk away for the broadcast booth. That is we are always looking for man bites dog stories. I'm not saying it's that far. Madden did it way back when. John Madden, the most, on our Mount Rushmore of sports media. Now a guy might do it at 36 again. To me, that's a humongous story. So yes, I am definitely buy on this story for sure. And he might be really good. I just think it's fascinating.
The question is where does he go? Does he go right into the booth? Does he go into a studio? How do you expect the networks to use somebody like him?
I think he'd be on games. I would think. I think look, Monday Night Football would want him if he comes out. I think that's the one that kind of makes the most sense. They like their crew right now in terms of Levy, Riddick, and Greasy, But if they have McVay, could they, change the whole thing up? And again, I mentioned, I don't think the door is, at least as we tape right now, the door is not completely closed on Al Michaels. Could they get somebody else, a play-by-player, to try to really make sure that McVay gets put in the best position? I think that's possible. It could be with Levy as well. But yeah, I think it's a fascinating story when you look at the Sean McVay situation.
Well, that wraps a Super Bowl edition of the Marchand Ourand Sports Media Podcast. Thank you all for listening until the end. And be sure to tune in next week when, Andrew, we're going to have another big get.
Sounds good. Thanks, John. Enjoy it. Good seeing you in LA, too, for the 2 seconds.